affirmative action in federal contracting and directed that all federal diversity, equity, and inclusion staff be put on paid leave and eventually be laid off. The moves Tuesday follow an executive order Trump signed on his first day, ordering a sweeping dismantling of the federal government's diversity and inclusion programs. Parents and advocates are happy to see the Supreme Court take up a case out of Maryland. Chris Woodward reports.
Jewish, Catholic, and Muslim parents in Montgomery County, Maryland, want to pull their children from elementary school classes that use books featuring LGBTQ characters. The parents lost at the federal district level as well as the appeals court level, but they argue it violates their First Amendment rights to not allow them to remove their child from things that go against their religious beliefs. Eric Baxter of Beckett Law Firm agrees, adding the court must make clear parents, not the state, should be the ones deciding how and when to introduce their children to sensitive issues about gender and sexuality. Bethany Mandel is a mother and writer in Montgomery County. She's not involved in this case, but she has been following the proceedings and was thrilled to see the Supreme Court take up this matter.
I know a lot of these parents, and the district court decision that came out in Maryland was really disappointing for them because they felt like they were in an adversarial relationship with their children's school and teachers and principals. And a lot of these parents are immigrants, and they don't have the luxury of homeschooling or the privilege of homeschooling. Remember when we used to say check your privilege, or sending them to private. And so they really felt like they were being victimized by the education system. And I'm so glad that they will have a chance to make their case outside of the state of Maryland, which is not always the sanest place, and have a chance of saving their kids' future in the public education system.
The case is known as Mahmoud v. Taylor. A date for oral argument has not been set. I'm Chris Woodward.
For American Family News, I'm Bronson Woodruff.
Streaming.afa.net has now become AFA Stream, and you can find it at stream.afa.net. You see, we removed the letters ing. Our experts have determined that eliminating those 3 keystrokes, multiplied over hundreds of thousands of AFA Stream visits, could reduce the national debt and maybe increase the gross domestic product. AFA Stream, formerly streaming.afa.net. Improvements to the economy are purely theoretical. Welcome to Today's Issues, offering a Christian response to the issues of the day. Here's your host, Tim Wildman, President of the American Family Association.
Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Today's Issues here on the American Family Radio Network. Today's Thursday, January the 23rd, 2025. Thanks for listening to AFR. We're live here this morning. By we, I mean I'll introduce our panel, and we'll decide later whether it's distinguished or not. Fred Jackson, good morning, Brother Fred.
Good morning. Made it in through the heat wave.
Yeah, it was a balmy when you came in?
It was over 32.
Yeah, 32 degrees, over freezing.
I'm very happy.
Yeah. Chris Woodward, good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Only 56 more days until spring.
Oh, man, I can't wait. And Brother Ray Pritchard's in Kansas City. Good morning, Ray.
Well, good morning, Tim, from Kansas, where right now it's about 16 degrees outside.
16.
Yes, sir. It's still pretty chilly.
Hey,
here.
when are you going to start riding your bike again?
Oh,
too early?
Oh, answer. Next time I go to Florida, I'll ride it when I go to Florida.
I got you.
Otherwise, I'm waiting for spring.
Now, if you're going to North Florida, they're getting pounded with snow.
What was that, like 9 inches in Pensacola or something?
Yeah, it was insane. It was by far record snows in for the state of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Alabama Gulf Coast got hit. The Mississippi and Louisiana and Texas Gulf Coast got hit. I saw. It was funny watching videos. Of people down there. And it was happy to see. I was happy to see the kids. You know, they had never the natives there, not the transplants who were from up north, but the natives who had never really seen snow.
They had
before.
a blizzard warning in New Orleans. I mean, that had never happened before.
Yeah. Well, that's in the Book of Revelation.
Yeah.
That's somewhere. That's right. About chapter 16.
It's
storms.
It's
and the
called
hail and all that.
Snowmageddon.
Snowmageddon.
I saw a guy snow skiing down Bourbon Street, and I'm pretty sure that alcohol was not involved.
Right.
It was for like a TV weather segment.
They were playing hockey on the streets there in the French Quarter.
Amazing.
Just crazy. But it was like a once in a lifetime event. They've had snow in that part of the country, but very little, dustings and things like that. Nothing like this, but it was a quote perfect storm, as they say, with the water from the Gulf and the frigid temperatures from Canada. All right, a lot going on today. And you just told me what's happening now, Fred. Go ahead.
All the networks that we have, we're looking at right now in our studio, all the major networks are covering President Trump's speech live right now to the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. I just watched the dignitaries walking out on stage before President Trump started to speak. They had a worried look on their face. There's a new sheriff in town in Washington, D.C., and he's probably 180 degrees to Joe Biden. I think probably Donald Trump is going to be telling them, hey, listen, things like, America is back, and America #1 is back. And so it's I'm anxious to see. We're not seeing what exactly he's saying right now, but he's a totally different player from what these guys in the World Economic Forum have been experiencing in Joe Biden.
Now, President Trump is speaking to the World Economic Forum from
D.C.
From D.C.
Yes.
So he's not there in person as presidents often are.
Yes.
And he probably will do that next year, but this time he decided to speak from Washington, D.C. Yeah, we don't know what he's saying exactly. But it'll be interesting to see.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see. Never a dull moment.
No.
with Donald Trump, is there?
No.
All right, so we will keep an eye on that. Well, listen, speaking of President Trump and his new administration and the executive orders that are being issued on a daily basis by the dozens, if not sometimes, I guess, 100 or so. Well, I don't know exactly how many executive orders, but at least dozens. And one of them stood out in the last day or two as one that we just need to stand up and cheer about. And we're going to talk to our good friend Robert Gagnon, who's a visiting scholar at Westlake Biblical Seminary. He wrote a piece in the American Spectator, which I read, and he is applauding President Trump, and we're going to ask him why that is now. Robert, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, Robert, you're not easily impressed, are you?
Well,
I don't think you are, and I'm not. When you've been in our kind of work for a long time, you're used to hearing politicians say things that you know that they're just pandering to you, maybe for your vote or your approval, but following through with said promises, oftentimes we know doesn't happen. But in the case of President Trump, with this latest executive order having to do with gender, you applauded it. Tell us, give us what this is about.
Well, Trump had indicated before he became president that he was not in favor of what he called trans insanity and the whole gender ideology that entails children to be indoctrinated in this and to be chemically castrated and to have males and female sports and so forth. So he said he would do something about it on the first day, and he did. He signed an executive order called Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the federal government. And in the process, he defined in the executive order what a male and female are according to biological reproductive capability, and therefore on the basis of an objective definition of male and female rather than the subjective, whatever I am, view of gender identity ideology. And so that is now federal law. That's how male and female are defined on the basis of the fact that men have sperm and women have eggs, and that's a standard way of defining the difference between male and female through all species. So it's now being applied, as it should have been from the beginning, to humans, male and female. And the consequence of that is rejecting the placement of males, biological males who identify as women, in female areas. So that would include school. You cannot use in schools. It will not any longer be rescinded. Biden's executive order that had previously allowed biological males who identified as female to enter female restrooms and locker rooms, and that's no longer allowed by the federal government. So if you're receiving money from the federal government, you've got a problem if you're trying to promote gender ideology.
So this was what was the name of this executive order? Do you know?
Defending women from gender ideology extremism and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Those are two interesting facets of the executive order, the biological truth element based on an objective definition of sex, but also a major part of the executive order was to justify it on the basis of defending women, right? Because women have been put in danger by allowing males in their restrooms and in their sports. Their privacy has been threatened. And so what it does to women, it's a significant element of the executive order. It's saying we're here to defend women. And the only way to do that, all the laws that have been put into place, protecting women, giving women their own sports, etc., all of those are undermined by changing a definition of female into a subjective category. So those two things go hand in hand. You have to have a biological truth, and the biological truth will defend women from gender ideology extremism.
All right, we're talking to Robert Gagnon. He wrote an excellent piece in the American Spectator, which we have a link to. Well, you can go there, American Spectator, I guess. But we put it up on our Today's Issues Facebook page if you want to go there and make it easy for you. Our Today's Issues Facebook page. It's an excellent piece by our guest right now, commending President Trump for his executive order titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology Extremism and Restoring Biological Truth to the Federal Government. This is outstanding. Congratulations to President Trump, and thank you to President Trump for doing this. This left-wing gender confusion, insanity that's been forced on the country the last 4 years in particular is stopping, at least as it comes down from the federal government. You remember Biden issued a executive order telling the Department of, I think it was Health and Human Services, that that the federal government will withhold money from any state that doesn't let boys play girls' sports. Now that isn't how they would say it, but that's what it was. Or let boys and girls showering area or changing rooms. Just the whole that crazy stuff that put girls at danger and at risk, and Biden was forcing that on the states, and if they didn't comply, then he was going to withhold federal dollars. That's how oppressive this was. Trump has reversed that completely and totally. Again, congratulations to him, and thank you to him for doing that and following through with this promise. Fred, did you want to?
Yeah, Robert, what a lot of people couldn't understand is that the Democratic Party has sold itself to the American public as being the party that defends women's rights. This is what this policy of Biden and his administration was 180 degrees to defending women's rights. I'd love to know who in the Democratic Party said, hey, we think it's a good idea if we now kind of attack women's rights and allow men who pretend they're girls to go into ladies' washrooms and change rooms and all of the rest. I mean, this was political suicide, and I think the election in November proved that.
Exactly. I mean, it's just unbelievable. We've reached a state in this country where that sounds logical, people. Gee, let's allow males who identify as females in female restrooms in sports. What could go wrong? It's stunning, absolutely stunning that people can't see the danger that arises from doing so. And I think finally we've reached a point in the country where the LGBTQ agenda has overplayed its hand. And there are enough, not a supermajority. It's still astounding we don't have more people opposed to what the Democrats are promoting, but at least a sufficient number to elect somebody like Trump and to get this executive order in place. So that's a very good sign for the country.
Ray?
Dr. Gagnon, there's a coming conflict, I suppose, as this executive order filters its way out through the government. What's going to happen in states, blue states like New York, like Illinois, like California, whose governors are not just opposed, but vehemently opposed to what President Trump has done? Is this an issue that's going to eventually end up before the Supreme Court?
Undoubtedly. Yeah, it's going to run through the courts. They're going to do what they can to stay the executive order and then to eliminate it through the courts. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. Of course, we do have the Bostock decision, the unfortunate Bostock decision with regard to Title VII and employment that protects gender identity. So to some extent, there's going to be some collision with that. We'll see if people like Gorsuch, who wrote that majority decision for Bostock, whether he's going to regain some sanity and realize that we cannot have males in female restrooms, locker rooms, and sports. Hopefully, the court will recognize that. But there'll be a battle ahead. There's no question about it. At least for the time being, though, the federal government is not going to be going after us for refusing to recognize so-called trans women as women or so-called trans men as men in schools, in workplaces, and in public accommodations. The question is how aggressive the Biden administration will be in going after schools, for example, that continue to allow boys in female restrooms, locker rooms, and sports. That's the question. How far are they willing to go on this?
All right, listen, Robert, thank you so much for being on with us this morning. Excellent piece there you wrote on this Trump executive order protecting girls and young ladies across America. And we appreciate it. Take care.
Thanks. God's blessings to you all.
Okay, that's Robert Gagnon. He is a visiting scholar at Wesley Biblical Seminary and a frequent guest here of ours on today's issues on American Family Radio. Fred, or Chris, who's next?
Well, let's do this. It'll keep us going with some Trump stuff. But Trump did a very long interview last night with Sean Hannity on Fox News Channel, specifically on the Hannity television program. And he talked about a number of topics. I've got a lot of sound bites. But one of the things that we've not heard from him so much on was his idea about disaster response. That weather's been a big story this year or this week. Along the Gulf Coast states, specifically areas near the beach. You've got California wildfires, North Carolina hurricane response. That's still going. By the way, Trump did say he is going to go to North Carolina and visit people in California to deal with that. But in this soundbite here, Trump suggested that we might actually do away with FEMA and give federal dollars to states to let them deal with disaster response. His idea being that states would be better at dealing with this kind of stuff and do it quickly. I've got a soundbite here, clip 3.
I'd rather see the states take care of their own problems. If they have a tornado someplace and let that state. Oklahoma is very competent. I love Oklahoma. But you know what? If they get hit with a tornado or something, let Oklahoma fix it. You don't need. And then the federal government can help them out with the money.
Now, I think it's good to play the soundbite and tell people to actually listen to and read what the president had to say, because I've already seen some news outlets cover this today with headlines saying, and I'm paraphrasing, Trump suggests getting rid of abolishing FEMA and just letting states deal with their own disasters, which is not exactly the situation.
No, giving states the right to take charge of recovery. This doesn't mean that it's not going to be federal dollars going to these states that face disasters, whether it's hurricanes or flooding, whatever the case may be. But it's just, Trump is a states' rights individual.
Yeah.
We saw that with abortion. So he believes in giving the states the right because they are there, they are on the scene, rather than have some federal bureaucrat from Washington, D.C. come in and take charge of recovery. We saw what happened in North Carolina, what FEMA did there.
FEMA was being weaponized.
Exactly.
I mean, as Ray, as crazy as that sounds, you were going like FEMA being weaponized. Do you remember the texts that were exposed? Go ahead, Ray.
Well, the text that they clearly said that the FEMA workers were not to help in homes, subdivisions, areas where there were Trump supporters, Trump flags, and so on. As that, if that's not weaponization of the federal government, I don't know what is.
Yeah, we're not making this up, folks. I mean, this was in the news.
Oh yeah, I'll post some links.
We have the lady's name who did that. She was a high-level executive there on the ground with FEMA, and but anyway, listen. This is to borrow from Bob Dylan. The times they are changing.
Yeah.
Whatever metaphor you want to use, a new sheriff in town, a new head coach, whatever you want to say for the team, but. President Trump is anyway. He's starting out with a bang.
Yep.
In his administration on several different levels, the things that he can do in terms of an executive order. Listen, I'm not a big fan of executive orders myself, generally speaking. But what happened here is the Democrats started this. You remember President Obama? I mentioned this yesterday. He got frustrated because he wasn't getting anything done legislatively, working with the Congress. And so he said, you know what, I got a phone and a pen. Basically, he was saying, I'll just do it myself. I'll just start issuing executive orders to do things. And I can understand any president is frustrated when their agenda is not getting passed. But that's the way our system works. You know what I'm saying? We have checks and balances in how our system operates. And President Obama got frustrated with that, and he started just issuing executive orders. Well, when that happened, then when, let's see, Trump followed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I got that right? So Trump just said, okay, you can do that. Two can play that game, and I'll just reverse everything you did, and I'll do some more. And then Biden came in, and he did the same, and now Trump's doing the same. I mean, you know what I'm saying? This is going to go on, and whoever, the Republican or Democrat wins, they're going to reverse what the last guy did. And in fact, ironically, it cost Biden, one of the main issues that cost Biden the election was his reversal of everything Trump had done to secure our border.
As much as anything else, the American people rose up and said, we want secure borders.
Right.
And they understand that Joe Biden, he didn't just reverse Trump.
Right.
He went way in the other direction. Let in, 10 million
or more.
Or more came in during that 1 4-year period, and Americans said enough is enough is enough. So, you know, Tim, just for the record, I agree with you. I think it's better overall. It's better overall when things go through the Congress, right?
Right.
When you have the debate in the House and you have the debate in the Senate,
right,
and it gets aired out publicly. That's simply not the age in which we are living. And Obama is the one who started it.
He did.
Trump followed it. Biden put it on steroids.
Yep, he did. Yep.
And now we're into day 4 of the second Trump administration. And more has happened in 4 days than in the first week of any president in my lifetime. We're all looking around to go, okay, it's 11, 12 o'clock. Let's see what's happened in the last 30 minutes out of the White House.
Well, also, Fred, President Trump has done more press interviews and statements and talking than Biden did in 4 years.
Oh, yeah. When he was doing signing these executive orders the other night in the Oval Office, he had reporters all around him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as he was signing they were asking questions.
He was talking to him while they were asking him questions.
Yeah, he's not afraid of the media. That's the bottom line.
Yes. Well, and you know, the Biden, they tried to cover for him.
Yeah. Yeah, he'd walk away.
Yeah, put it, to tell him what to say and when to get off the stage.
And what reporter to talk to.
Right.
I have a list.
Yeah.
Right.
That I have to follow.
They told me to call on you.
Yes.
You're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. We're going to take a short time out. We'll take our break a little early here. By the way, President Trump is speaking live to the what's known as the World Economic Forum. They are convening. I'm not sure where they are. Davos?
Davos, Switzerland.
Davos, Switzerland. But Trump is speaking to them from the U.S. And I'm not sure what all he is saying, but I'm sure it's not going to fit in with their agenda.
No.
Maybe some of it will, but I doubt it. I doubt much of it will, because President Trump is probably lecturing them on how America's back. Is that what he's going to do, Fred?
Yeah, he just told them we're working on being a superpower.
All right, we'll be back momentarily. Stay with us.
It's my turn.
Here is your host for My Turn, Don Wildman.
Once there was a merchant who ran a small general store in a little community out west. Considering himself a religious man, he was known far and wide as the merchant who always quoted a Bible verse when ringing up a sale. One day, a traveler passing through the little community stopped at his store. "Mister, I have one of the most expensive show horses in the country out there in the trailer behind my car, but I forgot to bring a saddle to ride him with. I hope you have a saddle, because this is the last store before I get to the show." "Yes, sir, we stock saddles," the owner replied. "Good," said the traveler. "Could you show me one?" Well, the merchant went to the back of the store and picked up the only saddle he had in stock. He carried it out to the stranger. "How much is it?" the stranger asked. "Well, that saddle'll cost you $20, replied the merchant. "Man, I can't put a $20 saddle on that horse." "Don't you have anything better than that?" asked the stranger. "Just a minute, and I'll check," said the merchant. He went to the back of the store, stayed a few moments. Then he came out again, bringing the same saddle. The stranger didn't recognize the saddle as being the one he had just looked at. "This saddle is made of some of the finest material available," said the merchant. "It's one of our finest saddles." "How much is it?" asked the stranger. "Well, sir, that saddle will cost you $400, replied the merchant. The stranger looked disappointed. "Mister, that horse out there deserves the very best. Don't you have anything better?" "Just a moment," said the merchant. Again the merchant went to the rear of the store. He stayed a few moments and then brought out the same saddle again. "This is the finest saddle we have," he said. "How much is it?" asked the stranger. "Mister, that saddle's going to cost you $1,200. "Good, I'll take it," the stranger said. He reached into his wallet and picked out 12 $100 bills to pay for that saddle. Then he took the saddle and left. Now, the men in the store who had witnessed the incident were anxiously waiting for the store owner to ring up the sale to see which Bible verse he would quote. They all gathered around as he headed for the register. "Sam," one of them asked, "what verse can you quote after a deal like that?" The merchant thought for a moment, then hit the keys on the register. As the drawer came open, he quoted a paraphrase of Matthew 25 and 43. "He was a stranger, and I took him in." You know, the ability to memorize Scripture is a good thing. I've read of people who have memorized the entire Bible, and I've met scores of people who could tell you the chapter and verse of numerous Scriptures, particularly those they are interested in. Personally, I'm kind of on the dullard side. I have to refer to my concordance to find a Scripture. Well, the moral of the story? It's one thing to memorize Scripture. It's quite another thing to practice it.
This has been My Turn with Don Wildman, a production of the American Family Association.
Hello, everyone. Tim Wildman here with American Family Association and American Family Radio. Hey, our tours for 2025, our spiritual heritage tours of Washington, D.C. and Williamsburg and Boston, they're filling up. They're halfway full now. And we've never had a response quite like this. So what I'm saying is, if you want to go with us this year to either Colonial Williamsburg, which includes Jamestown and Yorktown, or Washington, D.C. and all the sites of our nation's capital, including Mount Vernon, Or if you want to go with us to Boston and see the Freedom Trail and all the sights of the greater Boston area. If you want to go on these trips with us this year, it's time to check into the information and register so that you make sure you're on one of our tours, the one you want to go on, obviously. So go to the website wildmangroup.com. WILDMON group.com. Hope to see you on one of these in 2025.
One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. Psalm 27:4.
American Family Radio. This is today's issues. Email your comments to comments@afr.net. Past broadcasts of today's issues are available for listening and viewing in the archive at afr.net. Now, back to more of today's issues.
Hey, welcome back, everybody, to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Live radio show right here. We'll be on the air till 11:30 Central Time, and then we'll continue with our programming here on American Family Radio. Tim Wildman here with Fred Jackson and Chris Woodward. We're in our studios in Tupelo, and in Kansas City is our colleague and good friend Ray Pritchard. We again thank you for listening. Well, in Indiana is our good friend Dan Steiner, founder of Preborn, and you've been hearing about that for the last couple of weeks here on American. Well, you hear about it all the time on American Family Radio, but we've been asking you to help us meet our goal of 4,500 ultrasound scans to save babies all over America. And Dan Steiner has some good news for us. Dan, how you doing, my friend?
Hey, Tim, thanks for letting us on, and especially thanks for your partnership over the years. That this most recent run that we did with all of your programs and the men that I spoke to and the women, they're just 100% on board and love saving babies. So I would say that if you're listening to AFR, you're listening to the most pro-life radio broadcasting station in the world, because they put their money where their mouth is. And this year, our campaign, the goal was 4,500, but we blew the roof off of that, frankly, at over 5,100 scans,
all right.
free scans written for women. Yeah, praise
that
God,
deserves
man.
a clap, an ovation right there.
You guys kicked it, man. You did great.
Yeah, you can say kick tail on Christian radio. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, I didn't complete the phrase. Right?
You don't want to go any further than that, but that's okay. So our goal is 4,500 babies. To ultrasounds, and our listeners have paid for 5,200. So we thank you, everyone who's participated, and a lot of babies will be saved, and a lot of mothers will be ministered to, and a lot of them will come to accept Jesus Christ, because this is a explicitly Christian outreach that Dan and Preborn conduct. So praise God, and we're very happy about this, and I know you are too, and I wanted to have you on to talk about it. So Dan, real quick, if people maybe they say, what are you talking about? I didn't make a donation. Just give folks tell folks how they can do that and what it pays for.
Yeah, so this not only pays for a free ultrasound scan for a woman that comes into one of our clinics, find her on the internet, refer her to our clinics, get her in front of the ultrasound screen, sees her baby for the first time, baby picture of the first and best kind, moving like a little astronaut inside the amniotic fluid. 80% of the time, usually she'll choose life when she sees that. And then, in addition to that ultrasound scan, that $28 provides counseling all the way into the delivery room if needed, and then 2 years worth of maternity clothes and cribs and car seats and diapers, a lot of diapers, and whatever she needs for 2 years, because we love the woman and love the baby and put our money where our mouth is, and AFR does that because you guys have been partners with us, and it's a big megaphone that you've given us over the years, and some of the programs on there. So it's just wonderful what your listeners have done over the years.
Yes, God bless our listeners for responding. $28 buys one ultrasound, $56 buys two, or if you want to make a donation larger than that, certainly you can do that as well. Dan, how can people, if they didn't get a chance to give and they want to, how can they do that?
Yeah, I think it may still be up at afr.net. They can certainly also go to preborn.com. It's tax deductible, and 100% of that $28 or $56 for 2 or $140 for 5 scans, 100% of that goes to our clinics, all donor-designated money. And in response to that, we will send you for every donation, we'll send you a picture of a baby. It'll be an ultrasound picture because the baby isn't born yet, but it is created and very, very much a baby inside the mother's womb. And the story about that baby and the circumstances that the mother was in. And a lot of these stories are dramatic turnarounds. When she sees her baby and her heart, she's being pressured most of the time, Tim. She doesn't want to abort. She's been pushed. And this steals her soul to be able to galvanizes her determination to, like, I'm a mother right now. I'm going to do something about that.
Yeah. AFR.net, we still have it up there, AFR.net, AFR.net. Go there and you can see how to give to preborn. Thank you, Dan. God bless you, my friend.
Appreciate it, man.
Okay. Take care. That's Dan Steiner joining us from the Hoosier State there. He's the founder of Preborn. God gave him this idea, and he ran with it. And the Lord has blessed the ministry of Preborn. We're proud at American Family Radio to partner with them on this. And it's appropriate, too, because it's Pro-Life Month.
Yes.
It's our Sanctity of Human Life Month here in the U.S., and so January is a great month to do this. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Tim, Ray, Fred, and Chris. Chris, what's the next story?
Well, I want to direct our listeners and viewers to our Today's Issues Facebook page because earlier today I posted a new action alert from American Family Association asking President Donald Trump to pardon various pro-lifers that were arrested and convicted of violating something known as the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or FACE Act. This is a 1990s-era policy signed into law by President Bill Clinton, and it was designed to protect access to abortion clinics. But ministries and legislators have long argued that Democrat administrations have used this to weaponize the DOJ and go after people for doing something as simple as praying in front of or standing outside an abortion clinic and peacefully protesting abortion. There are about 24 pro-lifers that have been arrested and convicted of violating the FACE Act in recent years. And one of the people out there asking President Trump to pardon these pro-lifers is Missouri Senator Josh Hawley, who was the Attorney General of Missouri prior to becoming a U.S. Senator. Mr. Hawley, or Senator Hawley, was on Washington Watch yesterday, and he told Tony Perkins, host of the show, that these pro-lifers did nothing wrong. Clip 4.
I'm hopeful that the president will act on this immediately. I mean, these are people who are unjustly in prison, Tony. It's not even that they're folks who made a mistake, but at least it was nonviolent. That's not it. These are people who I believe committed no crime at all. The First Amendment protects your right to pray in a public space. It protects your right to demonstrate in a public space. And these are people who were singled out by the last administration, the most anti-Christian administration in our country's history.
Now, he went on to say that the Biden administration did exactly nothing to go after pro-abortion people that bombed churches, vandalized pregnancy resource centers, things of that sort. So Senator Josh Hawley still one of the people out there pushing Trump to pardon these people. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of the discussion here, AFA itself is asking President Trump to pardon these people, Tim.
You know, one of the people who was praying outside an abortion clinic, who has been given a 2-year prison sentence for praying outside of an abortion clinic, is a 75-year-old woman. Her name is Paula Harlow. Sentenced to 2 years by a federal judge simply for praying outside an abortion clinic.
Yeah, listen, Ray, if you're going to, it's just what Biden did with and previous Democrat administration, but Biden did with against these pro-lifers was unconscionable. Go ahead.
Look, the Biden administration was the most radical pro-abortion administration in American history, going beyond Barack Obama, and that's really saying something. They loved abortion. They hated the pro-life movement. And, if we were talking, Tim, about, you remember there was that period some years ago, the clinic bombings and stuff like that. If we were talking about that, it's a different situation. We are talking, as Fred said, we are talking about people, in this case, in Fred's case, a senior adult, just a couple of years older than me, standing outside an abortion mill, and praying.
Yeah.
Arrested for praying, not for blocking entrance, not for attacking doctors, but for praying to Almighty God.
Yeah, nonviolent.
Nonviolent. That's right.
Nonviolent. And so if she's on a private property and she refuses to move, then you arrest her you can arrest her for trespassing.
Right.
Okay. Now I'm just saying that would be the local sheriff can come out and arrest her for trespassing.
Yep.
Okay. But not the federal government come in with their U.S. Attorney's Office for something like praying in front of an abortion mill and giving them 2 years in prison.
Yeah.
This is what we was talking about, selective prosecutions. This is what upset a lot of people about what happened with the January 6th people. It wasn't that it was the punishment didn't fit the crime. Okay, that's what Americans find unjust, and so did anybody I know approve of going into the Capitol on January 6th? No. And you're reading these January 6 folks as they're released saying, I regret my actions on that day. But they didn't do anything violent. They didn't destroy any property. They didn't attack any officers. They didn't hurt anybody. That may have gone inside the Capitol. Well, when you start slapping those folks with 5 years in prison and crazy stuff like that, then it becomes clear that this is punitive. This is political persecution, and that's what upset a lot of people.
Yeah, some got 18 years. Some got 22-year prison sentences.
Right.
You know what I want,
and they hunted these folks down too.
Yes. What I wonder too, Black Lives Matter protests. Remember back a few years ago, burning down police stations, attacking police officers.
And you know what happened there?
Yeah, they won.
Well, Vice President Harris, she gave money for their bail.
Yes.
Yeah.
She donated money to get them out.
Right. So I mean, that's the kind of thing that. I think was in part a reaction during this election cycle.
Yes.
I hope Senator Hawley stands by the stuff, and I think he will.
Yeah.
I hope he keeps raising this issue. And I predict, don't know, things are happening so fast, you don't know when to predict something's going to happen, but I predict President Trump is going to pardon those who were unjustly charged. Exactly the example, Fred, that you gave. I think he's going to issue pardon commutation or something.
I agree.
It's the right and just thing to do.
Tomorrow would be a timely day to do it because tomorrow happens to be the same day as the National March for Life in Washington, D.C., of which AFN will have radio and print coverage. I'm interested to see, and nobody's told me, I'm just wondering, he spoke there in 2017.
You're right, it would be a great day to do that.
Maybe that's why he hasn't done it yet. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to today's issues on the American Family Radio Network. Tim with Fred and Chris and Ray. President Donald Trump is speaking today, in fact now, live to the World Economic Forum. And I don't know everything that he's saying. But, he's a pretty mellow, shy fella. And so I'm sure it's just some, platitudes and no.
He's been talking to them about tariffs. You want to do business in our country? You build your plants in our country.
They used to call him Milquetoast Don back in the day.
Yeah, right. Anyway, with respect to China, he's saying we just want a level playing field with China. We just want fairness. Anyway, we'll see. We'll be able to tell when he's finished. We'll have everything. I have all the clips for you. He's no fan of the Green New Deal.
Oh no,
either.
Nope.
And so. We'll see what happens here. What's your next story?
Well, news of his various executive orders has made it to Canada. And one of those executive orders, we discussed this on the show earlier this week, and we talked a little bit about gender a minute ago with Robert Gagnon. But earlier this week, President Trump made it known that officially the U.S. policy under his administration is that we are only going to have two genders, male and female, as if that needed to be said. But in this day and age, he did do an executive order saying as much. And that was a question for the Canadian conservative leader, Pierre Poilievre. This was a guy who has had some interesting exchanges with Canadian journalists. And here's one example of Mr. Poilievre being asked about this.
Mr. who?
Poilievre, Pierre Poilievre.
Pierre Poilievre.
He's the leader. He's probably going to be the next prime minister of Canada.
Oh, he will be.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here it's this soundbite. It's pretty long, but it's going to begin with the anchor asking Mr. Poilievre for his opinion on something. Clip 7.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing two genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. I am a people who say cis man. There are people there who, they say they're gender neutral. Well, you are a man, yes. There are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here, whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only two?
I'm only aware of two, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own business and leaves people alone.
I think I'm going to illegally immigrate to Canada just to vote for him. I think I'm going to invade their southern border if I can go vote for this fella. What a great answer. What's his name again?
Pierre Poilievre.
So he's kind of the Donald Trump of Canada now, isn't he?
Yes.
You really think he will be the new prime minister?
Yeah, well, Justin Trudeau.
Right. He's out.
He resigned back a few weeks ago. The Capital Liberal Party, of which Justin Trudeau is head of, is having their leadership convention on March the 9th. And then right after that, the other 3 or 4 political parties in Canada said as soon as Parliament gets back, they're going to put a non-confidence vote in whoever wins the leadership Liberal Party. That will automatically initiate an election campaign. And Pierre Poilievre, on all the polls right now, is the guy who's going to be the next prime minister of Canada.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And that would be a breath of fresh air for your home country.
That is for sure. It's amazing how what's going on in Canada right now mirrors what's been going on in this country over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Canadians are fed up with the left.
Right.
They are absolutely fed up with the left. They want to change.
Ray, what I liked about his answer was he kept asking the reporter,
That's right.
Give me some other genders here.
Give me a list.
Give me a list. You're saying, well, I accept other genders. Tell me what they are, and I'll talk about it.
He has that, frankly, also a beautiful, deep voice. I only know of two. And he said, I only know of two. It repeated it 3 or 4 times just to make it clear there are two.
And the reporter couldn't give him any more.
No.
The reporter
what about the trans?
Right.
There are only two.
Two.
Even if you're a trans, you're still one or the other.
That's right.
That's right.
You're still one or the other.
Your feelings.
There's a reason you're, quote, transitioning.
That's right. Your feelings don't determine what sex you are.
Right. You're listening to Today's Issues on American Family Radio. Next story, Chris.
Well, I want to bring people's attention quickly to the Supreme Court, and that's because the justices have decided to take up the case. It's kind of an interfaith coalition of parents in Maryland. There are Christian, Jewish, and Muslim parents in Montgomery County, Maryland, which is very liberal. And these parents want the religious right to have their kids opt out of LGBTQ book readings. This school system has decided to include these LGBTQ book readings as part of English lessons. And these parents, all of which are religious, say, hey, this is against our religious beliefs. We want to opt our kids out. The school won't let them. Now, they have lost at the federal and the appeals court level, but the Supreme Court has said we will take the case, which is huge news and leads people to believe that the justices will side with these parents. And that will have huge ramifications on the rest of the country. It's not just me saying this. Here is their attorney, William Hahn of Beckett, talking about this very issue and why everybody should pay attention to this case. Clip 6.
Because this case is the canary in the coal mine about whether or not people who want to deny parents the authority to direct their children's religious upbringing can use the public schools to do that. Like I said, there's a nationwide consensus that allows opt-outs for parents when it comes to sex ed for their kids, and Montgomery County has skirted that simply by calling this language arts instruction. If the principle that gets adopted in this case is that all public schools have to do to get around the authority of parents is to take sex ed and put it in English class, that is a national problem, and we will see jurisdictions do this over and over again. Montgomery County has one of the largest school districts in the country. It's the most religiously diverse county in the United States of America. Even in those situations, they're going to strip accommodations and not respect the First Amendment, you can only guess what's going to happen in other places.
Well, we'll be interested to see what happens there. Good for those parents. And that's a suburb of Washington, D.C., I think.
Yeah, a lot of people that work in federal government, if they don't live in Loudoun County or Fairfax County, Virginia, this is the county they live at while they work for the federal government.
Yeah. All right. By the way, big deportation news yesterday, right? Is you going to cover that, or is Steve going to cover that?
Oh, we can. Either one of us can do it. But yes, the mass deportation plan from the new Trump administration is underway. It's getting underway, I should say.
Well, they're arresting violent gangbangers, according to Fox News.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I was watching a video just before I came in the studio, and the video was the cops. They stopped these three guys in a car, and they are suspects in a robbery at one of the sports.
Yeah, the migrants were arrested for burglarizing the home of Cincinnati quarterback Joe Burrow.
Yes. This is kind of funny. These three guys in the car tell the cops, well, we're heading for Florida. And the cops say, well, you're going the wrong direction. You're heading north. And so they apparently found them with some of the goods from this robbery.
were they the guys who so these are the burglars?
Yes.
The quarterback there in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, the Bengals.
Yeah.
Joe Burrow.
Mm-hmm.
He was playing a game in Kansas City, I think.
Yes.
And the robbers knew that he was out of town, so they went and broke into his home. Is that who we're
Several
talking-
professional athletes have had their homes burglarized. We could find out whether or not this is part of a larger ring, but or sting. Or
So
whatever.
these guys were illegals?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? The deportation part of it, I understand why you want to do it, but there's a side of me that says these guys committed crimes on U.S. soil. They need to serve time in the U.S. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure of the legality of that, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you this. I think Mr. Trump is starting in exactly the right place, because I've seen the propaganda from the other side, breaking up families and so on. As far as I can tell, Mr. Trump and the
ICE
and the ICE folks are prioritizing the criminals,
right?
The rapists, the murderers,
right?
The thieves. That's who they ought to. The people in the drug cartels, the drug gangs, and all that. Go after those people. Throw them out. Send them back where they came from.
This report says ICE has made more than 460 arrests of illegal immigrants, including those with criminal histories.
Yep.
That include sexual assault, domestic violence, and drugs and weapons crimes.
3 days into the administration.
Right.
Yes.
Good
Right.
for them.
Next story, Chris.
Well, let's do this real quick because it's a short soundbite. But Trump says, in regards to going after illegal migrants, people that broke the law coming here, we're not going to tolerate this in the country. It's about 20 seconds. Clip 2.
This is not just South America. This isn't, we talk Venezuela, that's a big abuser, but these are countries from
Iran,
the
Syria?
Congo, countries that you don't even think of. The Congo has emptied their prisons out into the United States. We're not thinking about the Congo. We're thinking about South America. It's much more than South America.
That was, again, from his appearance last night on Hannity. By the way, do visit our Today's Issues Facebook page because that was about a 45-minute interview with Sean Hannity last night, and I have posted a link to that thing. In the event you didn't watch it, you can see it on demand by clicking on it through our Facebook page.
Let's see. Now, did Trump I'll tell you something that's a burr under his saddle right now. And, he gets a burr under his Manhattan saddle.
Mm-hmm.
He'll talk about it every day, all day. And Biden doing the pardons for all his kinfolks. Trump didn't like that. Trump said, well, Joe Biden didn't pardon himself.
That's right.
What'd that mean? Huh? I think he's just.
Yeah, he's not going to.
But he is making a point of.
Yes.
Of Biden doing that. What Biden? So he did that the last 15 minutes of his presidency, didn't he, Fred?
Yeah. Remember, President-elect Trump at the time and Melania went over for tea at the White House.
Yeah.
The little picture, the little tradition thing.
Is it tea?
Yeah, they had tea.
Yeah.
Apparently. And so then Trump and Melania head for the Capitol for the inauguration. It was after they left the White House, apparently, that Joe Biden signed off on this. So while Trump was giving his speech, that's when it was activated.
So it wasn't like 5 or 6 members of his family.
Yeah, his 2 brothers.
And his sister.
Yeah.
Got pardons.
Preemptive.
They're not even haven't been charged with any crimes.
That's right.
Preemptive pardons. All right. I'm just going to say they made a killing.
Yes.
Huh?
Oh, of course.
Off of him, the big guy.
Yeah. Hunter Biden, no doubt, made a boatload of money. Influence peddling.
Yeah, that's documented.
And James Comer, the representative, was closing in.
Yes.
On some of the money that the Biden family made.
Yes.
The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast may not necessarily reflect those of the American Family Association or American Family Radio.
Faith, family, freedom. American Family Radio.
Abraham Hamilton III.
If you really want to see the tides turning in our country, can I challenge you and encourage you? If the Lord could grab a hold of us in our family, you would see the tide in our politics turn.
The Hamilton Quarter, weekday afternoons at 5 Central on American Family Radio.
This is American Family Radio, a listener-supported ministry of the American Family Association.
For American Family News, I'm Bronson Woodruff. Firefighters in Southern California are battling 2 new fires, causing more evacuations. Fox's Tanya J. Powers has more.
One of the fires that broke out late Wednesday night is burning along the 405 freeway in Bel Air and has grown quickly, with firefighters dropping water on it from helicopters. It prompted an overnight evacuation warning for several neighborhoods. The other, named the Hughes Fire, began near Santa Clarita on Wednesday morning, quickly exploding to 5,000 acres across Los Angeles and Ventura counties and bringing evacuation orders for more than 30,000 people. As of this morning, CAL FIRE says the Hughes Fire has already burned more than 10,000 acres and is 14% contained. Tanya J. Powers, Fox News.
Hosts on Fox and Friends discussed the changes in how we're handling our border this morning, including more than 1,500 armed troops heading down, a report from ICE that it's now arrested more than 460 people this week, and more. Here's an exchange between Steve Ducey and Lawrence Jones.
They are going to try, when they come in, they've been coached by the cartels. Okay, just say you're here for asylum. Only 2 Border Patrol officials in the U.S. government will be able to authorize people coming into the country and release an asylum seeker. One person is the brand new Border Patrol chief, Mike Banks, and the other person is his deputy.
He used to be our border czar.
Right, exactly. So what's going to happen is people are going to go, oh, okay, can I come in? I'm going to claim asylum, and you got to talk to the boss. He's not here. Go. You're not coming in.
Can I talk about the criminals for a second? You saw that list of almost 500 people. Now, the president was sworn in on Monday at noon, and we're just now arresting these people right now. Do you think we just found out about them Monday at noon? Where was the Biden administration where all these people have just been walking around the country?
A federal judge in Seattle is set to hear first arguments today in a multi-state lawsuit seeking to block President Donald Trump's executive order ending so-called birthright citizenship. U.S. District Judge John Kaufner scheduled the session to consider the request from Arizona, Illinois, Oregon, and Washington. The order, signed by Trump on Inauguration Day, is slated to take effect on February 19th. It could impact hundreds of thousands of people born in the country, according to one of the lawsuits. In 2022, there were about 255,000 births of citizen children to mothers living in the country illegally, and about 153,000 births to two such parents, according to the four-state suit filed in Seattle. Congress voted to pass the Laken Riley Act on Wednesday, with 263 lawmakers, including 46 Democrats, voting in favor of passing the legislation. Georgia Congressman Mike Collins, who also co-wrote the bill, told Fox this morning he believes this bill is necessary for securing the border.
This bill simply inserts minor level crime because these people, they're coming into our country, they're bringing their criminal trade, and they're seeing what they can get away with. And the more they get away with, the higher the escalation in the criminal activity to the point of where they're raping and murdering American citizens. Anybody that voted against this bill, they were simply stating that they were okay with illegal criminals that broke into our country and are invading their neighborhoods and committing criminal activity. And that's just, it doesn't make sense. This was a bipartisan solution to a bipartisan problem.
The Laken Riley Act would give immigration officers the authority to detain and deport illegal migrants charged with crimes such as minor theft. It will now go to President Trump's desk, where he's expected to sign it into law. A Christian conservative says President Trump needs our prayers, but he's not the only one. Here is Penny Nance of Concerned Women for America.
We're righting some of the wrongs, we're turning back around, but really what we all have to do is turn to the Lord. We love Donald Trump. He's not perfect. He's an imperfect man, and he's going to need our prayers, as are all the people that he brings with him into the administration. They're going to be in a battle against, and dare I say it, the deep state people who are in government, who do not share their views, who do not want them to succeed.
Nance went on to say that the mainstream media will also be an obstacle. That's all for this hour of American Family News. Thank you for listening. You can find more news from a Christian perspective on our website, afn.net. For American Family News, I'm Bronson Woodruff.
What's your reputation? Kind? Generous? Shy? Rick Robertson says it would be wonderful to have the reputation of being someone who did things that were right in God's eyes. Of course, our best example of that is Jesus. And in the article in The Stand called A Soul Refreshing Rain, Rick helps us see how Jesus' attributes can change our daily lives. Visit afa.net/The Stand and read A Soul Refreshing Rain today. afa.net/The Stand.
Today's Issues continues on AFR with your host, Tim Wildman, president of the American Family Association.
So they usually go to the popcorn machine, and it has some hot, fresh popcorn. Went there at 10 o'clock and nothing. Nothing. I was
We
down.
got to get on that, Tim.
I know,
we got to
right?
get on that.
That set me in a bad mood.
Well, I saw you twitching.
That's no good.
I know. I'm expecting hot, fresh popcorn at 10 o'clock. I don't ask for much from our employees around here.
Note to staff.
Someone's going to be looking
fresh
for a new
popcorn.
job, huh?
Every day.
In terms of buttering up to the boss. See what I did there?
Uh-huh.
So, Ray, what are you eating? You got something going on there.
I got fat-free cottage cheese. I got some blueberries, and I got a banana.
That's what you do when you get over
today.
What you do when you get over 60. You start eating
got
things.
that right.
Actually, you do. You have to start cutting back on your donuts and hamburgers, or you're going to die of a heart attack. That's what they tell you.
Exactly right. You know, so.
Oh, man.
The fat-free cottage cheese, my wife got me on this. I was extremely skeptical, right? Because when I used to go visit people in the hospital, and the old folks were eating cottage cheese and a slice of peach, half of a peach.
I know.
Now that's what I am.
You start, you get to, I don't know when you start. I'm 61, but you get to be in your 50s, early 60s. You start learning words like triglycerides.
That's right.
All these
cholesterol.
Yeah.
By the way, somebody did make some popcorn during the break, so I'm happy now.
Good.
And it's a little salty.
Do you have some with you?
I
in
just
the
ate
studio.
it. I finished like a bag during that 5 minutes we were.
Note to staff: bring second helping into the studio.
Well, I won't turn it down. Anyway, so Steve Paisley Jordan joined us. Good morning, Brother Steve.
Good morning, everybody.
And got the Paisley shirt. No,
it's flowers today.
Flowers today with the plaid jacket.
Yep.
You know that clashes, right?
No, it goes. It goes. My wife gave me the thumbs
I don't
up.
care.
My
I'm
wife,
a guy. I'm just telling you.
My wife
That's
gave me
right.
the thumbs up this morning, so I'm pretty sure it goes.
Okay, well,
That's
maybe
the only vote that counts.
Right.
Well, maybe since Trump
Ray,
came in.
you can see me, Ray. What do you think?
I think it's gorgeous.
I
Right?
think
It's gorgeous.
You're right. I did see where Trump issued an executive order saying plaid can go with flowers.
I know. I lobbied
That's
for
right.
that very, very, very hard.
That's right.
So anyway, all right. Thank you.
Looking good.
Thank you for listening, everybody, to the Today's Issues program here on American Family Radio. Tim, Fred, Ray, and now Steve joins us. Steve, what's your first story?
Well, why don't we start with what's going on in Washington? You've been mentioning this, and I've been monitoring President Trump's speech to the World Economic Forum in Davos. Every year, the big movers and shakers of globalism get together in Davos, Switzerland, and set policy for the next year. Well, Donald Trump is the new man in town. Of course, he's back. And I want to give you a little sense of what he said. Some of this is the most Trumpian things you'll ever hear. Of course, it's a long speech, and I didn't get everything. But take a listen to Cut 12.
I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them.
All right. I messed up a clip. You heard that twice. Yeah. The other thing he said was we're lowering taxes, and for anybody who wants to build products, you come into our country, set up a business, you'll have the lowest tax rate in the world. If you don't, it's your prerogative. We're going to apply some not sanctions, the tariffs on you. So he's
well. Now, what did he say with respect to the Russia-Ukraine war? Because that was one of the things that he said. You know, he could quote, "I can end that in 5 minutes" or something like that.
So what he said is he's asking NATO or OPEC to reduce the price of oil, to make oil cheaper, which he says will starve Russia out of that war. Russia's getting almost all of its money to wage war in Ukraine from its oil sales. And if they take away that income, they're not going to be able to prosecute the war anymore. And that's what he's asking. He's saying
why? Because Russia competes with OPEC?
No, Russia. OPEC sets the price of oil globally. So Russia's,
OPEC sets the price of oil for Russia?
For the world.
For the world. Yeah.
Yeah. So if OPEC says, for example, and the numbers just pulled out of the air, if OPEC says we're going to charge you $70 for a barrel of oil, then Russia, I mean, they could try to get 80, but people are going to buy from Saudi Arabia, or they could try to undercut it. But that's the beginning point. So if
okay, you understand my question? Not to belabor here because I'm getting into territory I know zero about.
Yeah.
I know how much gas costs at the pump.
Right.
But and I don't even know what OPEC stands for exactly.
Oil producing economic coalition,
council.
I think. Yeah.
Anyway, but here's my question: if in fact OPEC sets the price for oil for the world and Russia falls under that, how could OPEC reducing that cost affect Russia any more than it affects any other oil market?
They're going to be getting less cash if the price of oil goes down.
So that's probably not his only, but that's his answer for ending the war in 5 minutes.
Well, he didn't say 5 minutes today. He said that.
Well,
before,
I know nobody believed that. He was, with Trump, sometimes you don't know if he's being serious or it's hyperbole, because he says such outlandish things that, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, he follows through on a lot of what he says, but a lot of what he says, you go, that's impossible to happen, and you go, how are you going to do this exactly? And someone like him, for his, in his profession as a New York land developer and being a TV personality, he's prone, but a lot of politicians are prone to saying exaggeration. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So anyway, but I know that he is going to be focused on trying to end this war as soon as
and I
possible.
think the reason I'm guessing the reason he said that he could do it in a day, or I didn't 5 minutes or a day, is because he started working on it for weeks before he was in office. This is the same thing with the Middle East peace, the ceasefire deal in Israel. He is responsible for that because he said that all hell was going to break loose.
Well,
he wasn't in office yet.
But
And so that was established 10 minutes after he became president because he had laid the groundwork in the weeks prior.
I just remember when he said his first campaign, he said, we're going to build a wall on the southern border and Mexico is going to pay for it. Remember that? And then later on, after he got elected, he said, I was kidding. I never meant Mexico was going to pay for it. How do you even do that? Remember that?
Yeah.
So that's when Trump gets into saying these outlandish things, Ray, sometimes you just got to take it with a grain of salt.
I think we should take him seriously, but not literally.
There you go.
That's a good point.
He is serious. He's going to end the war, not in 5 minutes, not in one day. But look, he and Putin, I think, get along. I mean, I think they have a little bit of a friendship going. I don't know about him and Zelensky, but look, this war is going nowhere. It's a dead-end street for Russia.
For both of them.
For both of them, for both sides.
Ukraine
and they both want out.
Right.
And Trump understands that. He's going to push them to make a deal and let's end this.
I think Marco Rubio, the new Secretary of State, that'll probably be first on his agenda list, is representing President Trump with Russia and Ukraine and trying to get it in a peace resolution.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're going to see Rubio doing a couple things really fast. I saw that he is scheduled soon to head down to Panama.
Next week.
Next week, Fred.
Yep.
Talk to the folks down there. They are, let us say, understandably nervous down there because it is their canal, but we're the ones who built it. Whatever this problem is with the payments, I'll bet, Fred, they get it worked out, whatever it is.
Oh, yeah.
What is the fundamental problem with the Panama Canal?
Well,
other than the fact that we gave it away 40 years ago, or whenever it was.
The big thing with Trump is that he is saying that China controls entry and exit from the canal.
Okay,
that's
a problem.
He's got a real problem with that,
and he's right.
And he says that Panama is charging U.S. ships, including U.S. warships, exorbitant prices to use the canal.
Gotcha.
So those are two things.
So he's sending Rubio, the new Secretary of State, down to
have a chat.
Have a chat with the Panamanians?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, someone said that in the handover that Jimmy Carter approved back when he was president, that there's some language in that agreement that Trump believes is not being followed.
Gotcha.
So we'll see.
Gotcha.
We'll see.
Well, listen, that is a major Ray, you just sailed through it.
That's exactly right. That's right. I mean, and as I told you, as we went into the canal coming from the east to the west, there was a string of ships as far as you could see going behind us, waiting to come in, cargo ships. And when I took the trip back from west to east, you could see them lined up way out in the Pacific Ocean. So I think the problem is less the fees. The problem is Chinese domination down there in Central America. That's going to be that's not just a Panama-U.S. problem. That's really a U.S.-China problem. Don't know how Trump is going to solve that.
Yeah.
But I bet they get the fee stuff, whatever it is, I bet they get it worked out.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to today's issues on American Family Radio. Next story.
We got another fire burning in L.A. that started last night. It's called the...
You're kidding me.
No. It's called the Hughes Fire, and it's near the town and lake of Castaic, which is in there's a road, Highway 5, Interstate 5, which goes up and down the whole West Coast. But in L.A., if you're going from L.A. to the Central Valley of California, where Bakersfield and Fresno and the agriculture is, you go over a stretch of road that they've called the Grapevine. And basically it's Highway 5 over and through these mountains.
You've been there many times, I guess.
Yeah, tons of times. And to say what it's like, this is how I know what, to maybe explain to you what it looks like. Do you remember the series MASH?
Yeah.
Do you remember the opening scene with the helicopter flying around those mountains? They filmed that on those mountains.
Oh, I got you.
So that's kind of what it looks like.
And Ray, you lived out in L.A. for a few years.
Yeah, and drove up through there just like Steve said, and it's exactly that. Steve, that's good. The opening scenes of MASH.
Yeah.
That's what's burning out there.
Yeah,
and it's already an arid kind of region. So once the fire starts, hard to stop.
So that's not. I'm not diminishing the tragedy of it, but I'm saying this is not a heavily populated area.
No, it's not heavily populated, although what they're saying, there is a town, the town of Castaic is up there, and there are other places. Ray, it's not far from Magic Mountain, the amusement park.
Okay, from, say, downtown L.A. to where the fire is, approximately, Steve, how far are we talking?
In miles?
Yeah, or how long to drive up there?
Without a whole, not taking into consideration L.A. traffic, I think it's maybe 45 minutes.
Okay.
From downtown LA to
now,
the fire.
Help me understand, if you guys can, the fires in Los Angeles, the Los Angeles area, like the Palisades fire. That I don't understand how that couldn't be put out by now.
Wildfires have a life of their own. They create their own weather systems, and depending on where the fuel is, you only have. I mean, when
you say fuel, you mean fuel for the fire?
For the fire, what's burning on the ground.
Okay.
The border of these fires are miles and miles long, and it's sometimes it's trees and big huge flames. Sometimes the flame is no more than like 6-10 inches tall, but it's racing across an open field. Right now, as of just a couple minutes ago when I printed this off, the Palisades fire is 72% contained.
Okay.
And it started well over a week ago. The Eaton fire, they're getting a handle on that. That's 95% contained. Now, this Hughes fire, they've already got 14% containment on it. And what they can do is they can shove these things away from populated areas. In other words, we're going to concentrate our firefighting efforts on the border between the fire and the town. If it burns north into the woods,
they're hoping for some rain, right?
Yeah, they are.
In the next few days, true.
They could get some rain. That poses its own problems. Let me give you some overall statistics that I found, though, from CAL FIRE. This is so far this fire season, they have had 37,794 emergency responses because of fires, 255 wildfires. Not all in L.A., but this is from California. 50,000 acres burned, 28 fatalities, 16,188 structures lost. Most of those are in L.A. And they have the Palisades fire, the Eaton fire, the Hughes fire, and then two new ones that started today that are yet 40 acres each. The Sepulveda fire and the Clay fire in Los Angeles and Riverside, respectively. So, but here's the thing: you say the rain's coming, and that will help them. Put out the fires. But here's the other problem: if it's a significant amount of rain, there is now no vegetation on the ground to keep the ground in place.
Damn.
So you always tend to have some pretty serious landslides. If places where you've had fire, because one of the things that vegetation does is it pushes roots down into the ground. So when the water comes, the plants take it and the roots hold and it waters it. But if the roots aren't there, the ground will
that's understandable. I just seeing pictures of that Palisades area. It looks like some residents said it looked like Hiroshima.
Yeah.
And that's what it looks like. It's just totally everything's burned to the ground. Just, burned to the ground for miles and miles and miles. I just don't see how they'll be able to rebuild on that. Anytime soon.
Let me actually, you said that. I talked to a pastor His name is Greg Monk. He's the pastor of a church in Southern California that is not near the fires, but his church is being used as a staging area. I asked him what it looked like. Cut 8.
It looks like a scene from a apocalyptic movie, something you would see, a dystopian nightmare, especially in those impacted areas. Over 5,000 homes are gone. The school, the grocery store, everything that they go to. Just imagine, they're gone. It's just gone. We have some partnerships up in LA that are directly dealing with families on the ground. And so one of those is the Dream Center up in LA, also the Red Cross. The most urgent prayer request is for the calming of hearts. People are so broken.
Wow. So that's a pastor that you talked to from the Los Angeles area that had been affected?
Right.
That's been affected?
Yes. I'll be in touch with them ongoing, too.
It is a kind of a different kind of situation than maybe even a sort of tornado or hurricane affected areas, in the sense that hurricane or tornado affected areas, you get a sense of rebuilding and what to do the day after. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, estimate the
You
damage.
can say, okay, we're going to do this, that, and the other. It will take us a year to rebuild this, that, and the other. But with this kind of situation, you just go, okay, everything for miles and miles and miles have been, our schools, our churches, everything's gone.
Yes.
And so where do you start? And furthermore, can you even start building without insurance?
That is one of the concerns. There's a little bit of a conspiracy theory going on, so I'll leave that alone about how these things started.
No, we want to hear it.
There are those that say that this fire is going to help. They want to put up apartment buildings and low-income housing.
This is the conspiracy you're describing?
No, the conspiracy is that someone started the fire just so Gavin Newsom himself was out there with a match starting this fire.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, it isn't. Of course it is. But there is going to be a battle over how to rebuild this because the zoning, some of these houses were decades old. And now there's a lot of rules about low-income housing and such, and they want to put low-income housing, and they want to developers are going to make a ton of money putting in these apartment complexes and such, whereas individuals, this is some of the most expensive real estate in the world, and it's some of the most beautiful houses in the world that have been lost. Right on the coast, you're talking about a house that might go for $15 million, and they lost hundreds of them. So
yeah, well, anyway, it's going to be interesting to see if they're able to rebuild.
Yeah.
Or if that will just be,
something will go there.
A tourist site.
One of the problems that I heard was that the materials that are left are very toxic.
Sure.
So people going in to clean up eventually, that's going to be a very difficult job.
Which begs a question too, Ray. Where do you take all these materials?
What do you do with them? There's so many problems. It's going to take, Steve. No, we're not talking months.
No, years.
We're talking years, I think, to rebuild.
Like probably 3 to 5.
Yeah.
The economy down there, this cannot help. Not only do they have everybody that has lost a home that doesn't have a home there, but think of all the people that live outside the fire area, but they drive to work. They worked at the hospital or they worked at the 7-Eleven or the school that was in this area. They're now unemployed.
Yeah.
I know.
It's going to take years to recover.
It's a major tragedy on many levels. So
indeed it is.
It's heartbreaking. I know we have everybody listening to me right now knows somebody who at least knows somebody who has been affected by those, because that's it's the second largest, most populated city in America. We here on our staff have a couple of people who have family members who have their house burned down. Most everybody listening to me right now knows somebody, like I said, who knows somebody at least who's been affected. So continue to say prayers for those folks, because that's one of those things where where do you start to rebuild? Except a lot of them are probably considering, well, they're going to have to move to a different part of Los Angeles or move to a different part of the country and start over.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
So, all right, you're listening to today's issues. We got about 3 minutes left here, Steve. You got anything liked?
Yes, I do. Actually, yes, I do. Actually, so the deportations have started in the United States under President Trump, and you say, what's light about that? Well, I want you to hear from this distraught man who's worried that his mother-in-law might be taken. This is Cut 11.
Trump won, and I am very, very afraid that he might deport my mother-in-law. She entered illegally to the country, and she lives in Street 4, number 47, apartment D, New York. I am very, very concerned. That's right behind the green apartment. The gate is always open. They don't have any dogs either. It's Street 4.
Wait. Yeah, we played that about a month ago.
Oh, did we?
Yeah, we did. That was right after the election, and some fellow was making a video pretending there to be.
I forgot.
Pretending to be worried about his mother-in-law, who might be
But
deported.
the gate is open, and there are no dogs.
There are no dogs.
Right behind the green building.
It'd be terrible if my mother-in-law was deported. Oh, my goodness gracious. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, thank you, Ray.
You bet. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you, Fred.
You bet.
Thanks, Steve.
My pleasure.
And Chris. And let's see, Robert was on. Who else was on today? Dan Steiner was on the program. We appreciate
and the popcorn maker.
Yes,
absolutely.
I don't know who made the popcorn back there during the break when I was whining and complaining, but it sure was good. I'm fixing to go get me some more, Fred.
There you go.
All right. Tomorrow we shall interpret the use of the word fixing for people who don't live in the deep South here. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody, with Trivia Friday.
You know, the new year is a great time to reconsider how we do things, like how to make things better in 2025. Like when it comes to the whole struggle of how to pay for your health care, people generally are not happy with the status quo. But there's good news. There's a much better option, and it's proven too.